GoFundMe for the Kings if they get this pick wrong, as Luka is in the finals. And now, Chris, from friend of the station, Evan Sittery, he is saying that the Kings are looking to shop the number 13 overall pick with future draft capital to aggressively hunt a win now piece. Harrison Barnes and Kevin Huerter are two players who will likely be dangled in trade talks over the next month. Oh, they've been dangled. They've been dangling for a while there, Evan. Sacramento wants to seriously compete within the midst of De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis' prime years. And I mean that, and we had somebody
Mike Brown's contract too.
And now Mike Brown's contract.
It all lines up.
And we had somebody say on the text line that this station is obsessed with Kyle Kuzma. Well, I guess it's just a matter of how many distressed assets are out there that you also think could turn the Kings around and get them to, not really turn them around, but take them to that next level.
Right.
Well, if you start,
and you don't have to give up the farm.
And you don't have to give up the farm, aka Keegan Murray. Okay. So if you start looking around the league, Kyle Kuzma's in a good spot. Is he now regretting the fact that he said no to a trade to the Mavericks? Okay. Which is why some people think all he cares about is stats and making money. But Kyle Kuzma did not think they were a contender at the time. We've talked a lot about Brandon Ingram because that's, again, another piece. So I would challenge this to the listeners out there. Is there a name that you've seen that nobody is talking about? Are there any names that we are overlooking? All right, because we know it's Zach LaVine, who we're going to get into his details a little bit later. There's Zach LaVine, there's Brandon Ingram, there's Kyle Kuzma,
Jeremy Grant.
I was going to say to a lesser degree, Jeremy Grant. Is there anybody else? Because look, we understand that we've been talking about the same guys because that's who's available.
Yeah.
Is there another name that we're missing out on?
Not that I can think of. Not that's, again, it takes two to tango. Like it has to be somebody where their team is willing to, I mean, especially if we're talking about not giving up a ton for this player, you got to think of a situation where, the team is looking to go a different direction as well. And I think that's, like Lauri Markkanen, I think is maybe a name that we can throw in there, but all the reports that we've seen from Utah is they want to get better, and trading Lauri Markkanen is not going to make them better.
Whitey Gleason thinks Utah's not that far.
Exactly. And I'm sure they think the same thing. I mean, so I feel like Utah's not really in a position to get rid of their guys. Memphis ain't trying to get rid. Like Andrew Wiggins is maybe a name. I'm sorry, I'm just looking at the standings. Andrew Wiggins is maybe a name, but we talked about him last week. How big of an upgrade actually is that? And with how the Warriors are valuing Wiggins these days, they might think that, it's not going to be Keegan, but they might say, oh, give us the 13th pick and maybe a protected for, I don't know. They just are a little bit too high on Andrew Wiggins stock right now. There's Keldon Johnson, but I think there's a lot of names, but there's not a lot of guys who I think fit. We're looking for forwards. We're looking for guys with length. We're looking for guys with defensive upside, and that makes things smaller. Like, of course, we can just come up with names of guys that might make this team a little more interesting, but if we're talking about specific roles and things that we need accomplished, that list gets tighter and tighter. And I think that's why, there's 5 to 6 names that really kind of stay in circulation.
Eric Stoneburner on the Sack Chat is saying Dejounte Murray is a name.
That kind of complicates things, though. Like
another guard.
I like Dejounte Murray a lot. I think Dejounte and De'Aaron is probably the best defensive backcourt in the NBA. But there's still a lot of problems with that. I mean, is Dejounte how good is Dejounte Murray making this team? I would think a second round team. I kind of have a tough time. Conference finalist, I have a tough time seeing that. Well, I definitely don't think that's a championship roster.
I'm also trying to figure out Dejounte.
I don't know
if you keep Malik, what is happening there?
Right.
Because if you get Dejounte and you keep Malik, I think Malik is still a 6 man.
Right. Yeah. That
I just don't see things a bit. I don't think Dejounte's long, but I don't know if he's long enough to play the 3.
No, he can play the 1 or 2, and he can't play the 3. Yeah, I mean, that definitely complicates things. Malik can still come off the bench and be the guy that he's been, but Dejounte is going to play 30 minutes every night plus. He's playing 30-plus minutes every night, guaranteed. So that takes away a lot of Malik's minutes, 100%.
Now, if you lose Malik,
that's maybe a different conversation.
Yes. If you lose Malik,
yeah,
I will definitely have the Dejounte Murray conversation.
Absolutely. But that'll come in time, I think. And even then, I still feel like at the end of the day, if this team wants to be in contending conversation, I just think you need threes, man. I mean, look at the finals right now. You have Luka, you've got Kyrie. I'm sorry, you got Luka, you've got Tatum, you got Brown. I think those are the kind of guys that you need. You get Anthony Edwards is a bit of a more of a forward body. Is definitely a guard, but has the physicality to play the forward spot. I just think forwards have always been the trump card, I guess, in basketball, where if you have a guy who has the size of a big man but the skills of a guard, I mean, that's ideal. I mean, obviously guards have their limitations with their size. Big men have their limitations with their skills. I think obviously if you can find a position of somebody in the middle who fills all of those things perfectly, that's what the Kings desperately need. That's what makes the dull Swiss Army knife, as you called him, of Harrison Barnes a little frustrating, is that you just feel like if the Kings could upgrade at that spot, get more out of that position, that could be just enough to rise this thing over to where we want it to go.
Yeah, when I look at the Kings roster right now, it's just incomplete.
Yeah.
It's just not good enough. We're getting this, Chris, from the Sac Chat and also the text line. The text line, I'll read the text line. Malik Monk is the most available asset on the market. Kings need to focus on locking Monk in unless they already moved on from Monk, and we don't know about that. Well, the problem, I think, 916 is, and somebody else is asking, hey, is there any movement? We're not going to hear anything until free agency actually starts, okay? And if you were listening on Friday, we had Nate. Was that Friday? Thursday or Friday? We had Nate kind of break down Malik Monk.
Oh, yeah. That was
and it
Friday.
wasn't, Friday. Take this for whatever you want, a grain of salt. We had Nate, who was at a memorabilia signing, and Malik Monk was there. And Nate was kind of reading the body language of Malik Monk, but there are not going to be any actual updates for anybody until free agency actually starts. Right. Now, one thing as we kind of re-rack the situation is that Malik Monk, the couple options that stand for Malik Monk is a straight up 4-year deal at what, Chris, around 17 mil a year.
Yeah, just under.
And this option came up maybe a couple weeks ago, where Malik could do essentially a 2-year deal, opt out, and then the Kings could really cash him out. But as a lot of people feel, hey, we need to, you need to get your money when you can. And Malik would basically be gambling on himself again. And with Malik's history, I don't know that he would do that. So we're just kind of going to focus on that 4 for 78. And that is the most that the Kings can do. Other teams can do it more, can afford to give him more money based on the caps and the bird rights and things like that. So it's not a matter of the Kings need to focus and the Kings need to pay Malik Monk whatever it takes. They are simply not allowed to. So with that being said, if they get outpriced by the Magic or the Pistons or any of these teams, you better hope Malik just loves the weather out here in Sacramento, because
hopefully he gets a boat.
Yeah, hopefully go fund me for Malik's boat, right? or something like that, right? Or some free golf, whatever it is, because that 17 to 20, maybe Malik says, I really like Coach Mike Brown. I really like playing with De'Aaron Fox. I really like Sacramento. That's 17 to 20, sure. That's 17 to 23. I don't really care how much I like Sacramento. That's a huge difference. Huge. That's $6 million difference. Right. Anything past $4 million, and I'm saying this as someone who has not seen that type of money, but $4 million in my mind, $3 million. In my mind, $3 million a year is kind of. It could be different. I'm just literally making this up. But in my mind, $3 million is the line.
Maybe you could make that up and into whatever.
Exactly. Figure out 17, if he's getting 20 from the Magic, 20 from the Pistons, and the Kings got 17, we got a shot.
Yeah.
Yep. You start getting past that, 21 million, 22 million.
Right.
I don't know what to tell you.
I think it just becomes human nature at that point to where you're like, like these are just a lot of dollars that we're just leaving on the table here for my good feelings. And, I think it's definitely just kind of exactly what you laid out where it's all on Malik. It's going to be his decision. There's not really much anybody from the Kings side can do that can make him feel better about the Sacramento thing. I just think, at the end of the day, it's really going to be about him trying to prioritize what's best for him. And, there's definitely a lot working for him here in Sacramento, but, De'Aaron laid it out with the go get your money, man. Like this opportunity might not come up again. And he's already had to struggle for years trying to get his name reestablished in this league to get to this point. Why double down on the risk and push it 2 years to hope that the Kings are true to their word? I mean, there's a lot that makes sense for Malik to leave as well. Not to mention the fact that Orlando is arguably a closer to winning situation because they are in the East and because they do have young stars that are leading them. And the Eastern Conference is kind of getting a little bit older and getting more depleted.
The Bucks got about 2 more years left.
We don't know what's happening in Cleveland. 76ers have to redo their whole roster.
Yeah.
There's a lot of questions that are happening in the East, and Malik, not to mention, also gets the second scorer role, we would think, in Orlando. So there's a lot that's working against Sacramento as well, but you just got to hold out hope. I mean, really that's all we can do for this month is just is hope that Malik Monk likes Sacramento enough to make it make sense. Because if he wants to stay here, like you said, he can work out to make the money work. It's just it's going to take 2 to tango on that. He's going to have to ultimately decide that Sacramento is the place that he wants to stay more than anything else. And if that's what's driving his decision, then we have a really good shot at keeping him. But if he's going to factor in a whole lot of other things, which he probably will, then their chances definitely go down pretty significant.
Go get D'Lo, Orlando. Go get D'Angelo Russell.
Clay. They're wonderful.
Exactly. 916-339-1140. Steven, we see you. We will get to you on the other side, continuing the conversation. What will the Kings do with the 13th